So I ask, what is your wake-up call? What is enslaving you? What is controlling your thoughts? Is it the television set? Feeding your mind images of what life should be? Is it the internet drawing you in and controlling your time? Is it drugs or alcohol numbing your brain and diminishing your desires? Or is it weakness? A lack of discipline that prevents you from accomplishing what you want to accomplish. And I'm not saying that you have to rebel. I'm not saying that there aren't things in life that we just have to do. There are. But what I am saying is ask questions. And don't believe everything that you're told. And don't follow the path just because it's there. Don't get in line just because other people are. Get up and wake up and be conscious of what is creeping into your mind. What's getting in there? What are you letting in there? What is forcing itself in there? And what does it want you to do? You have only one life. So don't waste it being controlled by someone else.
That's one of those things that's it's everywhere. Like you can easily be controlled by stuff. Like a big one is I hate to harp on parents, but like your parents. So nobody's perfect, right? So all your imperfections or a lot of your imperfections will be passed on to your kids just because you don't know any better. Like that Mrs. Song lady, like she just believed it. She didn't know any better. Mm-hmm. And so you can end up passing these things down, like certain traditions or, just methodologies of raising kids that you might hear otherwise, but that's your thing, that you believed it. It crept in your mind because your parents, their parents, and you don't, like how you say, ask questions. And you don't ask questions. You're just like, hey, that's how I was raised. You pass it on. Meanwhile, you're doing the wrong thing the whole time. Mm-hmm. That's what happens when you don't ask questions.
That's what happens when you don't ask questions.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you believe authority all the time.
Yeah.
And hey, this might come across as some people are sitting there saying, wait a second, Jocko, weren't you in the military for 20 years? You're damn right I was.
Yeah.
And there was I was a rebellious kid. And when I was in the military, I questioned everything that we did and why we did it. So, and I think that's one of the things that helped me get to a leadership position and become a decent leader was the fact that I didn't just take everyone's word for it and say, oh, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Okay.
Right.
No, you know what? We're actually going to change the strategy. We're going to change the tactics. What I was taught isn't working right now. We're going to do it differently.
Yeah,
we did that all the time.
Yeah.
But this is a broader scale. This is a broader scale. This is life. Yeah. Not just in the book, but life in general. Mm-hmm. Life in general. Like, what are you doing? Where are you getting your direction from?
Yeah.
Who's got a hold of your steering wheel?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's...
Make sure it's you that's got a hold of your steering wheel.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where it's tough because you got to balance it as well, So if you're just rolling around saying, hey, nothing's true until I figure it out, it's kind of like, you got to consider the opportunity cost, where some people you got to consider their credibility, and then you got to kind of just go with it. And again, this is just kind of demonstrating like there's a balance there.
Yeah,
But just like how
of
you're
course.
saying, if it's not working and someone presents you with some alternative, don't just be like, hey, I've done it this way, so, leave me alone type of thing. Ask those questions and listen to them, Chances are you might find a little improved method in doing some stuff.
Yeah, or you might find out that you've been sucked into a trap
Yep.
you don't want to be in.
No.
You got to free your mind. You got to free your mind. You got to get out of that box, out of that cage.
Yeah.
Think of that. I meet people now, and it's so bizarre because I've traveled a lot, and I've walked with a lot of different kind of people, from from all different walks of life, and I meet people sometimes. And I think to myself, man, this guy's pretty awesome. He's got all this, I wonder what this person's goal is. And sometimes I'll ask, like, well, what do you want to do? Or like, hey, I'll meet some kid, or what you want to do? And some people say, well, I want to do, I think they're going to come out with this giant dream. And they come out with like a little mediocre idea. and I haven't done this yet. I've talked to 5 people in the last 6 months that I thought were going to tell me about their dream, and that I was going to be like in shock, and I was going to be impressed and say, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, brother. Go get it. And instead, I had to bite my tongue because they were telling me their dream, but it wasn't big enough. It wasn't big enough. It was too realistic. Now you meet some people sometimes and they tell me their dream and I go, man, you ain't got a chance at that. You need to tone that down. You need to get a grip, right? These people are like, you can achieve anything you want. No, actually, you can't achieve anything you want. If you could achieve anything you want, everyone would be sitting on a yacht or doing whatever big badass thing that they want to do.
Right. Kind of depends on what you mean by can't, though. But yeah, it's true.
I mean, can't. That's what I mean. These people that are like, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
No, actually, there's limitations to that.
Right.
All people are not created equal. Some people are smarter than other people. Some people are better athletes than other people. Hey, reality. Now, what can you hear? The question isn't that. The question is, what can you do with what you've got? What can you do? And I'd love to hear people overshooting. But don't trap yourself in a box where you're like, well, I'll be happy if I can do this.
Right.
And the other part of this is, it's sort of like North Korea. There's people that are trapped in a paradigm in their head of the world. They think that the world is this thing that they live in. They think that the world is this small place, the people that they know,
right,
and the atmosphere that they live inside. And it's really, really small. And I think to myself, man, you got to get out. And I'll tell you, part of this came when I got out of the military. Because my whole life, the only guys I knew were SEALs. I mean, that's just who I knew. And so when I got out and I started meeting other people, and I especially started working with big business, and started meeting really not just successful in terms of financial people, but people that had really done something. And I started realizing that there was a whole nother level, not a higher level, but there's just another world.
Yeah.
Like in the SEAL teams, hey, I did my SEAL platoon, I did SEAL platoon commander. You do these I did task unit commander. You do these things, and that's what you do. And it's awesome. And that's a whole world. But there's other worlds. And I remember telling one of my SEAL buddies, we were out surfing, and this was after I'd been out for like 2 years. I had this exact conversation with him. I said, hey, man, like we were out there surfing for an hour. And for 58 minutes, we're talking about the SEAL teams, the SEAL teams, the SEAL teams, the SEAL teams, and the SEAL teams.
Yeah.
And then I said, hey, man, the SEAL teams is awesome. But just so you know, there's other things in the world.
Yeah.
And it's stuff that I'm saying my mind was in North Korea. My mind was just SEAL team.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I'm glad it was because it made my life very simple. And I still, obviously I love the SEAL teams more than anything. But there are other worlds out there. Mm-hmm. And you can do other things in the world. And so now when I meet people in different environments and different jobs and each little environment that I poke my head into, because we work in different industries all over different, manufacturing and gas oil and financial, and they're all their own little worlds. And sometimes people are trapped in those worlds.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, man, free your mind. Free your mind and see what else is out there.
Yeah. Kind of like what you and Tim Kennedy were talking about, how you guys are an example of people who have seen the really, really bad parts of the world and the really, really good parts of the world. Because you guys travel all over, and you live in San Diego, which is, arguably one of the best places to live. So you have that expanded view. Meanwhile, some people, they only go on vacation when they travel. So they have, although a real positive and really nice view, but it's really narrow.
Yep.
Or other people who only lived in bad places. Just like people who grow up in a real negative household, when they go out into the world, just their beginning view of the world is negative.
Yeah.
Like money is just so hard to come by because when they grew up, their parents are complaining about the rent and bills are piling up and all this stuff. So that's their attitude when they go out. And then that's how they kind of take on the world. Man, I know this, and this is kind of a different thing. Same content, same subject, but I had a friend in high school, and there's people, I grew up on Kauai, a small island in Hawaii. So some people straight up have their whole life haven't been off of Kauai, and no less the mainland. The mainland is this fantasy world place where Disneyland is and Hollywood and all this stuff. So I had a friend, one of my good friends, he moved to the mainland, but it was just this small, teeny tiny town, just as small as Kauai. So I remember one time
What state was the town in?
Colorado.
Okay.
Colorado. He moved to Pueblo, it's called. So I remember we were just having a conversation later, and I was like, "Hey, yeah, let's go to Las Vegas. A lot of Hawaii people go to Las Vegas." And I was like, "Let's go to Las Vegas or whatever." I was like, "When do you what do you do? You rent a car?" He was like, "I would never drive in Las Vegas. I would never drive in Las Vegas because it's too crazy. There's freeways. There's no freeway on Kauai. On Oahu, there's a highway, but and he, a grown adult, so to speak, can't even drive. So that's like an example of that's how narrow his whole view was. His whole world, and that extended to his driving skill. This was just so hectic on a freeway. Highway, Las Vegas, even. I don't even know how crazy that is. I mean, that's not a crazy place to drive, really. Compared to like, I don't know, like
Go
LA
to Boston.
or whatever. Yeah, or something.
Go to LA.
Man.
Hit the 405 north on a Thursday afternoon. There's no doubt. There's so much out there. And if you stay comfortable in your world, you can get comfortable starving in North Korea.
Yeah.
That's what the scary thing is. That's the point that I think I'm trying to make is don't be comfortable because what you think is awesome right now, there could be so much more.
Yep.
If you can envision and pay attention to what's going on in the rest of the world and break out of that paradigm that you're in and see that you can fly. You can fly around the world. You can do it.
Yeah.
Just don't get trapped and free your mind.
Yeah.